My son passed at 32. At the funeral, my wife pointed at me and said, "Your indifference caused his passing." She took $600,000 from the life insurance and threw me out. While packing my son's things, I found a hidden safe with $200,000, 3 USB drives, and a letter. "Dad, if you read this, find the truth about Mom." Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments what city you're watching us from. What I discovered on the other flash drives destroyed everything I thought I knew. And I realized something terrifying. Daniel didn't die of natural causes. He was murdered, and the person who did it had slept in my bed for 35 years. My name's Armando. I'm 66 years old. And until 3 months ago, I was an ordinary man. I was a civil engineer for 40 years. I built bridges, buildings, highways. I worked Monday through Saturday, sometimes Sundays. I earned good money. Our house was big. We had 2 cars, 2 vacations a year. From the outside, we were the perfect family. Fatima seemed like everything a man could ask for. We got married when I was 31 and she was 28. She was beautiful, smart, always knew what to say. She managed the house, the finances, everything. I worked, and she took care of the rest. We were a team, or so I thought. Daniel was born a year later, my only son. But I'll be honest, I wasn't the father I should have been. There was always one more project, an important meeting, a business trip. Fatima took care of him. I signed checks and gave pats on the back. I thought providing was enough. Daniel grew up quiet, reserved. He studied systems, engineering, and moved into his own apartment at 28. I'd visit him every 2 or 3 months, always in a hurry. Our conversations were superficial. He never told me anything personal. I never asked. Fatima said it was normal. I believed everything she said until my phone rang at 6 in the morning 3 months ago. It was Fatima, crying, "Armando, it's Daniel. You have to come to the hospital now. It's serious." When I arrived, she hugged me and whispered, "He's gone. Our son is gone. A heart attack," the doctors said. Sudden, unexpected, at 32 years old. I just stood there, looking at my son's body under a white sheet, and I couldn't cry. I was in shock. The funeral was 3 days later. I was like a zombie, greeting people, nodding, but I wasn't really there. The guilt was eating me alive. And then, just as they were lowering the coffin, Fatima turned to me, pointed a trembling finger, and screamed, "You killed him. Armando, it was your indifference that killed him. You were never there for him. You pushed him into this loneliness that destroyed his heart. 32 years waiting for his father to truly see him. Murderer." She collapsed crying, and everyone looked at me like the monster she just painted. I didn't say anything because deep down I believed she was right. Maybe my absence really did push him into a depression that broke his heart. I left carrying not only the pain of losing Daniel, but the weight of being his murderer. Fatima stopped talking to me. I slept on the couch. Friends stopped calling. The looks on the street were of contempt. A week later, Fatima got the call from the insurance company. Daniel had a $600,000 policy, and she was the sole beneficiary. 2 days later, Fatima came downstairs with 2 suitcases. "I want to divorce, Armando, and I want you to leave today. Now." I reminded her the house was in my name. She pulled out a paper. "Daniel left a letter saying he never forgave you. My lawyer says that with this and the funeral witnesses, I can prove psychological abuse. I could take everything from you. Either you leave voluntarily now, or I'll drag you through the courts. You choose." I didn't have the strength to fight. I packed my bags and left. I rented a miserable apartment, 1 room, a dirty kitchen, a bathroom with mold. I started drinking cheap whiskey. I wake up at noon, drink until I passed out. Repeat the cycle. 6 weeks went by like that, lost in darkness and alcohol until my phone rang. It was the landlord of Daniel's apartment. "Mr. Armando, I need you to come pick up your son's things. I have to rent the place out." I didn't want to go, but I had no choice. I arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, 3rd floor, no elevator. I opened the door, and the stuffy smell hit me. Everything was as Daniel had left it. I started packing mechanically, trying not to think, not to feel. When I got to the large wardrobe, I decided to move it to clean behind it. It was heavy, solid wood. I pushed it with effort, and then I saw it. A small metal door built into the wall, painted the same color. A safe. My hand was shaking. Why did Daniel have a safe? What was he hiding? I tried to open it. It had a digital combination. I tried his date of birth. Nothing. I tried mine. Nothing. I tried our wedding date. Click. The door opened. Inside were stacks of bills. Many stacks. I took them out and counted them. $200,000 in cash. Perfectly organized $100 bills. Where had Daniel gotten so much money? Why did he have it hidden? But that wasn't what made my heart stop. At the bottom, there were 3 flash drives marked with numbers 1, 2, 3, and underneath, a white envelope with my name on it. I took out the letter with trembling fingers. I recognized my son's handwriting, but it wasn't the firm script I remembered. This was shaky, rushed, desperate. Dad, if you're reading this, it means something happened to me. Find out the truth about Mom. The flash drives have everything. Forgive me for not being braver. Forgive me for not telling you anything when there was still time. I always loved you, even when you thought I didn't, Daniel. I sat on the floor with that letter in my hands, cried for the first time since he died. What truth? What was on those flash drives? Something happened to me. His death wasn't natural. I took the 3 flash drives, put them in my pocket along with the money and the letter, locked the apartment, and ran to my car. When I got home, I connected the first flash drive to my computer with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The file opened. A folder with videos. Dates from the last 6 months. I clicked on the first one. The screen lit up, showing a recording, and what I saw made my world completely fall apart. It was Fatima, my wife, passionately kissing another woman in a private restaurant, laughing, touching. And then I heard their voices clearly. Soraya, my love, with the insurance money and what we've already saved, we can go where no one knows us. The other woman, Soraya, replied, and what if Daniel talks? Fatima laughed, a cold laugh I'd never heard from her. Daniel isn't going to talk. I've already taken care of that. My blood ran cold. I kept watching video after video, each one worse than the last, and I understood with absolute horror that my son didn't die of natural causes, and that the woman I'd shared 35 years with was a monster I never really knew. I couldn't tear my eyes from the screen. My hands trembled so much I could barely control the mouse, but I kept clicking video after video, going deeper and deeper into an abyss I didn't know existed. The first flash drive contained at least 20 video files, all dated within the last 6 months of Daniel's life. Each one was a direct stab to my heart, to my sanity, to everything I had ever believed. In the second video, Fatima and that woman named Soraya were in what appeared to be our own home, my home, in our living room. They were drinking wine, laughing, kissing on the couch where I'd slept for those last few weeks. The video was dated just 8 months ago. I was on a business trip in another state, supervising the construction of a bridge. While I was working like an idiot to maintain her standard of living, my wife was bringing her lover to our house, to our bed probably. How much longer do we have to wait? Soraya asked in the video, fixing her hair. We've been doing this for 3 years, Fatima. 3 years of hiding. Fatima caressed her face with a tenderness she hadn't shown me in the last 10 years. Patience, my love. The old man has to die naturally. If I ask for a divorce now, I only get half of everything. But if I wait for him to die, I inherit everything. The house, the savings, the investments. And then there's the life insurance he has through his company. $200,000. It's not much, but it adds up. Soraya laughed. You're terrible. You know that. Fatima gave her a long kiss. I am practical. Besides, with how much he works, the stress will kill him soon anyway. Heart attacks are common in men his age. I paused the video. I had to run to the bathroom to vomit. The cheap whiskey I'd had that morning came up mixed with bile. I knelt there in front of the dirty toilet of that miserable apartment, shaking, crying, unable to process what I'd just heard. My wife, the woman I slept with for 35 years, the mother of my son, was waiting for me to die to inherit my money and run off with her lover, waiting like you wait for a bus, like you wait for the weekend. I washed my face with cold water and went back to the computer. I had to keep going. I had to know everything. The third video showed me something even worse. Daniel was there, my son, walking into the living room just as Fatima and Soraya were kissing. The date was 4 months before his death. I saw the look of total shock on his face. Mom, what? What's going on here? Fatima pulled away from Soraya with a chilling calm. There was no panic on her face. No shame. Just cold calculation. Daniel, honey, what a surprise. I thought you were at work. Daniel looked at his mother as if she were a stranger. I came back because I forgot some documents. Mom, what is this? Who is she? Soraya stood up, uncomfortable. Fatima, I think I should go. But Fatima motioned for her to stay. No, stay. Daniel, sit down, we need to talk. What followed was one of the most disturbing conversations I've ever heard. Fatima explained to Daniel with an obscene naturalness that she'd been in love with Soraya for years, that her marriage to me had been a mistake, that she'd stayed only for money and appearances. Daniel was devastated. I could see the tears running down his face in the video. Does Dad know? He asked in a broken voice. Fatima laughed. That same cold laugh that chilled my blood in the first video. Your father? Your father doesn't even know what day it is. He's so obsessed with his bridges and buildings that he hasn't noticed anything in the last 10 years. I could bring a whole circus into this house, and that man wouldn't notice. Daniel stood up, shaking with anger. I'm going to tell him. He has to know. This isn't right. And that's when I saw the change in Fatima. Her face transformed into something cold, threatening, dangerous. You're not going to tell him anything, Daniel. Absolutely nothing. Do you hear me? Daniel took a step back. He's my father. He has a right to know his wife is cheating on him. Fatima approached him, and although the video didn't have the best angle, I could see her grab his arm forcefully. Listen to me carefully, little boy. If you say a word to your father, if you ruin my plans, I'll make sure you regret it. I know all your secrets. I know what you did in college. I know about the money you stole from the company you worked for 2 years ago. I know everything. And if you open your mouth, I'll make sure you end up in jail. Is that clear? Daniel pulled away abruptly. You're crazy. You're completely crazy. And he ran out of the house. The video ended there. I stared at the black screen, processing what I'd just seen. My wife had blackmailed my son. She'd threatened him, and she mentioned something about stolen money, about secrets. Was it true? Had Daniel done something illegal? Or were they Fatima's lies to control him? I opened the next video. This one was different. It wasn't a hidden camera recording. It was a video Daniel had recorded himself, looking directly at the camera. He looked haggard, with dark circles, as if he hadn't slept in days. The date was 2 weeks before his death. Dad, Daniel began, and his voice broke immediately. If you're watching this, it means what I was afraid of happened. It means Mom won. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I don't even know where to start. I guess at the beginning. 4 months ago, I found out Mom has a lover, a woman named Soraya. I saw them together, kissing in our house. When I confronted them, Mom threatened me. She told me if I told you anything, she would destroy me, and she had the means to do it. Dad, 2 years ago, when I worked at that software company, I made a terrible mistake. I stole $50,000. I know. It was horrible. I was desperate. I had gambling debts I couldn't pay, and I thought I could put it back without anyone noticing. But Mom found out. I don't know how, but she did, and she's been using it to control me ever since. Daniel took a deep breath, trying to calm down. But that's not the worst part, Dad. The worst part came later. I started investigating Mom. I hired a private detective with the money I managed to save, and what I found out, oh my God, Dad, Mom has been stealing from you for years. The accounting firm where she supposedly worked as a secretary 5 years ago doesn't exist. It never existed. That money she said she was earning, those year-end bonuses she mentioned, it was all a lie. She was taking money from your accounts, little by little, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, small amounts you wouldn't notice right away. But in total, Dad, in the last 5 years, Mom has stolen over $300,000 from you. I had to pause the video again. $300,000. I got up, walked around the small apartment, trying to breathe, trying not to scream. I went back to the chair, forced my eyes to keep watching. Daniel continued. I have all the documents, Dad. Bank statements, transfers, everything. It's on the second flash drive. Mom created ghost accounts in your name. She signed documents forging your signature. She's good at it, Dad. Very good. And all the money ended up in a joint account she has with Soraya. They're planning to leave together. They're waiting. They're waiting for you to die so they can take everything. Daniel covered his face with his hands. When he looked at the camera again, his eyes were red. I want to tell you all this in person, Dad. I really wanted to, but I'm scared. Mom has been saying weird things to me lately, that I look tired, that I should go to the doctor, that my heart might be weak like Grandpa's. She keeps insisting I take some vitamins she bought, red pills in an unlabeled bottle. I haven't taken them, Dad. Something tells me they're not vitamins. I've been throwing them away when she's not looking. But last night, when I got to my apartment, I found that same bottle of pills here in my kitchen. She has a key to my apartment. She came in when I wasn't here and left the pills here. I am scared, Dad. Really scared. The video shook because Daniel's hands were shaking as he held the camera. If something happens to me, Dad, if I die suddenly of a heart attack or something, please don't believe it was natural. Please investigate. The flash drives have everything you need. The proof of the theft, the videos of Mom with Soraya, everything. And the money in the safe. That's the money I managed to recover. I couldn't get it all back, but I took $200,000 from the account Mom shared with Soraya. I did a week ago. She doesn't know yet. When she finds out, she's going to freak out. That's why I'm recording this now. That's why I left instructions with my bank that if something happens to me, you be contacted to empty my apartment. Forgive me, Dad. Forgive me for not being braver. Forgive me for all my mistakes, but please, please, don't let Mom get away with it. Don't let her win. I love you, Dad. I always loved you. I wish I'd told you more often. The video ended. The screen went black, and I sat there in that miserable apartment with my dead son's words echoing in my ears. My son had loved me. My son had tried to protect me. My son had died trying to expose his own mother. And I, the blind idiot that I was, had believed every lie Fatima told me. I let her kick me out of my own house. I'd carried the guilt of his death when she was the one responsible all along. I looked at the other 2 flash drives on the table. There was still so much to discover, so much more horror to face. But one thing was clear now, crystal clear. My wife had killed our son, and I was going to make sure she paid for it. I spent the whole night without sleep, connecting the second flash drive to my computer. My eyes burned, my head throbbed, but I couldn't stop. Every second that passed without knowing the whole truth was a wasted second. Another second that Fatima walked free while my son was underground. The second flash drive opened to reveal meticulously organized folders. Daniel had been systematic, careful. There were folders labeled bank statements, fraudulent transfers, forged documents, joint account Soraya, communications. I opened the first folder, and what I saw confirmed everything Daniel had said in the video. There were the statements from my own bank accounts, but with transactions I never authorized. Transfers of $5,000 here, $8,000 there, $12,000 here, all to an account I'd never seen before. I followed the money trail as best I could, although I'm no financial expert. Daniel had done the work for me, highlighting each suspicious transaction with notes in the margins. Dad was on a business trip to Houston on this date. Impossible he authorized this. This signature doesn't match Dad's. Zoom in, and you can see clear differences. Mom had access to the checkbook that day. I saw her in the study. My son had been a detective trying to protect his idiot father who couldn't see what was right in front of his nose. The folder of forged documents made my blood boil. Fatima had forged my signature on at least 20 different documents, transfer authorizations, loan applications, account openings. She had practiced my signature until she perfected it. Daniel had even obtained copies of my legitimate documents for comparison. The differences were subtle, almost imperceptible, but they were there. An expert lawyer or a handwriting expert would spot them in seconds. But what really broke me was the communications folder. Daniel had managed to hack Fatima's and Soraya's emails. I don't know how he did it. My son was a systems engineer after all, but there they were. Hundreds of emails between them, some dating back as far as 4 years. The first ones were romantic love letters that turned my stomach. My dear Soraya, every day I spend with that man is torture. I dream of the day we could be together freely. Fatima, my love, be patient. Soon we'll have all the money we need to start our new life. But the recent emails, the ones from the last 6 months, were different, darker, more sinister. There was one from Soraya dated 3 months before Daniel's death that said, "And what about the boy? Are you sure he's not going to talk? We can't risk him ruining everything now that we're so close." Fatima's reply chilled me to the bone. "Don't worry about Daniel. I have a plan. Dr. Ignacio owes me favors, big favors. He can make it look natural. A heart attack in a young man with a genetic predisposition wouldn't raise suspicions. Armando's father died of a heart attack at 50. It's perfectly believable. I had to get up and walk, breathe, process. My wife had planned our son's murder. She'd written it in an email like someone planning a vacation. Cold, calculating, monstrous. And she mentioned a doctor, Ignacio. I searched for more emails with that name. I found at least 15. Dr. Ignacio turned out to be our family's primary care physician. The same doctor who'd signed Daniel's death certificate. The same one who declared it was a natural heart attack. In an email from 2 months before Daniel's death, Fatima wrote directly to Ignacio, "Dear Ignacio, you know what I need. The pills have to be undetectable in a routine autopsy, and there won't be a real autopsy if you sign the certificate declaring natural causes, right? Remember, I know what you did at the hospital 3 years ago. I know about the fake opioid prescriptions. I know about the patients who conveniently died when their families could pay. Help me with this, and your secret is safe. Refuse, and I'll destroy you." Ignacio's reply was brief and terrified. "Fine, Fatima. I'll do as you ask, but after this, we're even. I don't want to hear from you ever again." There was the absolute proof. Fatima had blackmailed a corrupt doctor to provide her with drugs that would kill Daniel by simulating a heart attack. And that same doctor had signed the death certificate without asking questions, without ordering a full autopsy. Everything was arranged, everything was planned, and I'd been so blind, so consumed by my guilt and pain, that I never questioned anything. I kept reading. I found emails where Fatima and Soraya discussed how to give Daniel the pills. "He's getting suspicious," Fatima wrote. "He's not taking the vitamins I give him. I'll have to be more creative. I can put them in his food when he comes for dinner or in his coffee. He's so predictable. He always drinks black coffee with no sugar." Another email, this one from just a week before his death. "I did it. I put the crushed pills in his coffee this morning when he came for breakfast. He drank the whole cup. Ignacio says that with the dose I gave him, the effect will start in a few days. His heart will gradually weaken and then, boom, cardiac arrest. No one will suspect a thing." I closed the computer and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in my entire life. My son had been slowly poisoned by his own mother. He had suffered. He had felt his body weaken. He probably felt chest pains, shortness of breath, and thought he was really sick. He never knew for sure that he was being murdered until it was too late. And I wasn't there. I wasn't there to protect him, to save him, to at least hold his hand in his final moments. But there was still the third flash drive, the one Daniel had marked with the number 3. With trembling hands, I plugged it in. This one contained only 3 files. The first was another video of Daniel, recorded just 2 days before his death. He looked terrible, pale, sweating, breathing with difficulty. "Dad, I feel really bad. I think Mom managed to give me something. I don't know when or how, but my heart is beating weird. My chest hurts. I went to the hospital yesterday, and Dr. Ignacio checked me. He said everything was fine, that it was stress, but I know he's lying. I know he's with her. I'm going to die, Dad. I know it. I can feel it, but at least I left everything documented. At least the truth will come out." The second file was a security camera video. Daniel had installed a hidden camera in our home's kitchen. The date was 8 days before his death. There was Fatima in our kitchen with a mortar and pestle crushing pills. She crushed them into a fine powder. Then she made coffee and, with a chilling calm, poured the powder into one of the cups, Daniel's cup, the one he always used when he visited us with his university logo. The video showed Daniel arriving minutes later, greeting his mother with a kiss on the cheek, suspecting nothing, drinking that coffee while they talked about trivial things. My wife smiling as she watched him drink his own death. The third file was an audio recording. It was from a night before Daniel died. I recognized the voices immediately. Fatima and Soraya. Are you sure it'll work? Soraya asked. Completely sure, Fatima replied. Ignacio says that tomorrow or the day after, his heart will collapse. And when it does, I'll be there to call the ambulance, to cry, to play the part of the devastated mother. The old man will feel so guilty he won't question anything. And when I publicly accuse him at the funeral of having killed his own son with his indifference, everyone will believe me. He'll be broken, isolated. It'll be easy to get him out of the house and keep everything. Soraya laughed. You're brilliant, terrifying, but brilliant. Thanks, love. Now we just have to wait. Daniel's insurance is another $600,000. Added to what we already have, it's almost $1 million. We can go to Spain, buy that beach house you want, to live like queens. I turned everything off. I sat in the darkness of that horrible apartment with the whole truth crashing down on me like a ton of bricks. My wife had murdered our son for money, for a damn $1 million and a beach house. She'd planned every detail. She'd manipulated every situation, and she almost got away with it. But I wasn't going to let her. Daniel had risked everything to leave me this evidence. He had died knowing his mother was killing him, but also knowing the truth would come out. I wasn't going to let him down again. This time, I was going to be there for him. This time, I was going to be the father I should have always been. And this time, Fatima was going to pay for every second of suffering she caused my son. For 3 days, I locked myself in that miserable apartment, planning every move. I couldn't just go to the police with the flash drives. I needed to be smart. Fatima was manipulative, convincing. If I showed up as a bitter, alcoholic widower accusing his wife without solid proof, no one would believe me. She'd paint me as a crazy man obsessed with revenge. I needed more. I needed something irrefutable. I stopped drinking. I poured all the whiskey bottles down the drain. I showered, I shaved. I cut my own hair in front of the broken bathroom mirror. I had to look sane, presentable. I took my suit out of the bottom of a box, ironed it as best I could. I looked like a different man from the one I'd been these last few weeks. On the outside, at least. I made copies of everything. All 3 complete flash drives, I stored them in different places. One in a safe deposit box I rented at a downtown bank. Another I sent by certified mail to the address of Mario, Daniel's best friend. The third I hid inside the engine of my old car. If something happened to me, if Fatima tried to silence me like she silenced Daniel, the proof would still exist. Then I looked for Mario. I needed to talk to someone who knew Daniel, someone I could trust. Mario worked at the same tech company as Daniel. I went to his office on a Wednesday afternoon. When he saw me walk into the reception, his face showed surprise and some discomfort. Mr. Armando, I wasn't expecting to see you. I asked to speak with him in private. We went to a nearby coffee shop. Mario, I need you to tell me the truth. Did Daniel say anything strange to you in his last few weeks? Anything about his mother? Mario stirred his coffee nervously. Mr. Armando, I shouldn't. Daniel made me promise not to say anything. I leaned forward, looking him straight in the eye. My son is dead, Mario, and I think he was murdered. I need to know what he told you. Mario turned pale. His hands trembled around the cup. My God, you suspect it too? He was silent for a moment, struggling internally. Finally, he spoke. Daniel came to my house about 2 months ago. He was terrified, Mr. Armando. I'd never seen him like that. He told me about his mom, about the lover, about the stolen money. He told me she was threatening him. And then, about 3 weeks before he died, he called me at midnight. He was crying. He said he felt weird, that his heart was beating differently, that he thought his mother had given him something. I told him to go to the hospital to get tests. He told me he'd gone, but the doctor was a friend of his mom's, that he couldn't trust anyone. The last time I saw him was 2 days before he died. He came to my office, gave me a sealed envelope, told me if anything happened to him to give it to you. But after the funeral, when your wife accused you in front of everyone, when everyone said you'd been a bad father, I was scared. I thought maybe you wouldn't want to know, or that you wouldn't care, or worse, that you were involved somehow. I kept the envelope. I still have it. My heart pounded. I need that envelope, Mario. Now. He nodded. It's in my apartment. I can bring it tomorrow. I showed him one of the flash drives. Before you do, I need you to see something. We went to his office. It was late. Almost everyone had gone. I plugged the flash drive into his computer and showed him the videos, the emails, the evidence. Mario put his hands to his mouth, horrified. Holy God, she killed him. She really killed him. His eyes filled with tears. Daniel was my best friend. We were friends since high school, and she, that woman. Help me get justice, I said. Help me make sure she pays for this. Mario nodded with determination. Whatever you need, Mr. Armando, whatever it takes. That night, Mario brought the envelope Daniel had left him. Inside was a letter from me, telling me to trust Mario, that he knew part of the truth. There was also a key to a safe deposit box at another bank. The next day, we went together. Inside that box were more documents, medical records Daniel had somehow obtained, showing that Dr. Ignacio had been under investigation 3 years ago for illegally prescribing opioids, cases of patients who died under suspicious circumstances. All filed away without charges thanks to influence and money. Daniel had discovered how Fatima had that doctor by the throat. There were also photos of Fatima and Soraya together at restaurants, hotels, beaches. Daniel had hired a private detective who had followed them for months. There were receipts of Fatima's purchases using the stolen money, expensive jewelry for Soraya, romantic trips, all meticulously documented. With Mario by my side, I finally had the courage to do what I had to do. We contacted a criminal lawyer, one that Mario knew and trusted. We showed him everything. The lawyer, a man in his 50s named Ivan, reviewed every document, every video, every email for hours. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair and whistled. This is solid, very solid. We have fraud, theft, conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, forgery, and more. We can take this to the DA, but we need one more thing. What thing? I asked. Ivan looked at me seriously. We need a confession, or at least to try to get one. If we can get her to admit to something, even partially, while she's being recorded, the case becomes airtight, no escape. The idea both terrified and excited me. You want me to confront her? Ivan nodded. With a hidden recorder. I can get you a professional device. You talk to her, you press her a little. If she's as arrogant as she seems in these emails, she probably won't be able to resist gloating. Narcissists always want their intelligence to be recognized, even when they're being caught. I agreed. It was risky, but I had to try it. For Daniel, Ivan prepared everything. He gave me a small recording device that looked like a shirt button. Go tomorrow night. Show up unannounced. Tell her you want to talk. Keep her talking. Ask open-ended questions. If she starts confessing, let her talk. Don't interrupt her. I didn't sleep that night. I mentally rehearsed what I'd say, how I'd confront her. The next day, I dressed in my best suit, put on the recorder button, and drove to the house that had been mine for 30 years, the house where my son had been poisoned. It was time to face the monster that had slept beside me all this time. I parked my old car in front of the house at 8 p.m. The lights were on. I could see movement through the living room curtains. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would explode. I rang the doorbell. Silence. Then footsteps approaching. The door opened, and there she was. Fatima, my wife, my son's murderer. She looked different, younger somehow. She was wearing new, expensive clothes. Her hair was freshly dyed. The $600,000 from Daniel's insurance had apparently been good for her. When she saw me, her expression changed from surprise to disgust. What are you doing here, Armando? Her voice was cold, distant. I need to talk to you, it's important. She crossed her arms. We have nothing to talk about. I told you not to come back. I stood my ground. It's about Daniel. Please, Fatima, just a few minutes. Something in my tone must have made her hesitate. She sighed dramatically and opened the door. 5 minutes, and then you're gone. I entered the house. Everything looked the same, but different. There were subtle changes, new photos on the walls, rearranged furniture, as if she were slowly erasing my existence. We sat in the living room, facing each other. She on the sofa where she'd kiss Soraya. Me in the armchair where I used to read the newspaper on Sundays. What do you want? She asked impatiently. I took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the funeral, about how I killed Daniel with my indifference. She raised an eyebrow. And I think you're right. I was a bad father, an absent husband. I deserve your hatred. I deserve this loneliness. I saw something in her eyes. Satisfaction. Enjoyment. At least you admit it. She leaned back on the sofa, relaxing. Your whole life working, building things out of concrete, and you neglected the only thing that mattered, your family. I nodded, play my part. I know. And now Daniel is dead because of me, my only son. I wiped real tears from my eyes. Tell me, Fatima, how can I live with this? How can I go on knowing I killed him? She leaned forward. Her eyes shone with something dark. You can't, Armando. It's that simple. You carry that guilt until the day you die, which I hope is soon. The cruelty in her voice was palpable. Every night you'll remember that your son died alone, with a broken heart, waiting for a call from you that never came. Did he suffer? I asked in a low voice. Did Daniel suffer at the end? Fatima tilted her head, considering. I suppose so. Heart attacks are painful. They say it feels like an elephant sitting on your chest. He probably called for help. He probably thought of you in his last moments, wondering where his father was. Every word was a stab, but I needed more. You know what's strangest? I said, changing tactics. I went to his apartment a few days ago to pack his things. I saw a slight change in her expression. Tension. And I found something interesting, a safe hidden behind the wardrobe. Her face went pale for a second, then she recovered. Daniel was always paranoid. He probably kept important documents in there. There was money. I continued, watching every micro-expression. A lot of money, $200,000 in cash. Fatima went rigid. That's impossible. Daniel didn't have that much money. That's what I thought too, I said softly. I wonder where he got it. Did you know Daniel had so much money stored away? She stood up abruptly. I don't know what you're talking about. And frankly, I don't care. Is that all? You came here to tell me about money? I stood up too. There were other things too, flash drives, documents, letters. I saw panic cross her face before she could hide it. Your 5 minutes are up, Armando. Get out of my house. But I didn't move. Do you know what was on those flash drives, Fatima? She took a step back. I'm not interested. Goodbye. Videos. I continued, advancing slowly. Videos of you with Soraya, emails planning to steal from me, bank documents showing the fraud, and something else, something about Dr. Ignacio and some pills. Her face lost all color. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you crazy? Am I crazy? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Or did I finally find out the truth? Fatima changed her strategy. Her eyes filled with fake tears. Armando, please, you're confused. The grief over Daniel is making you imagine things. But I didn't stop. Daniel knew everything. He knew about Soraya. He knew about the stolen money. And he knew you were poisoning him. The words came out of my mouth like venom. She stopped acting. The tears disappeared. Her face transformed into something cold and calculating. If you have proof, why are you here? Why didn't you go straight to the police? She crossed her arms, defiant. Because you have nothing. Daniel was a paranoid liar who made up stories. So you admit you knew he suspected? I pressed her. She realized her mistake. I admit nothing. I want you to leave now, or I'll call the police. Call them, I said calmly. Tell them your husband you stole $300,000 from is here, asking uncomfortable questions. Tell them the father of the son you poisoned wants answers. Fatima looked at me with pure hatred. You can't prove anything. Anything. No. I took my phone out of my pocket. I have copies of everything. Fatima, every email, every video, every transaction, the police will go to review them. Experts will analyze the forged signature. They'll exhume Daniel's body and do a full autopsy. They'll find the drugs in his system, and they'll trace those drugs back to Dr. Ignacio. How long do you think that coward will last before he turns you in to save himself? She stood motionless, processing. Then, to my surprise, she laughed. A bitter, defeated laugh. You're smarter than I thought. Or Daniel was. I guess the boy got something good after all. She sat down again with a spooky calm. Fine, you want the truth. I'll give it to you. Yes, I have a relationship with Soraya. Yes, I took money from your accounts. And you know what? I deserved it. 35 years putting up with you, 35 years being invisible to you. That money was compensation for lost years. And Daniel? I asked in a broken voice. Was he just an obstacle to your happiness too? Fatima looked at me without emotion. Daniel was going to ruin everything. He found out about Soraya. He threatened to tell you. I couldn't allow it. Not when I was so close to being free. My voice came out as a whisper. You killed him. You killed your own son. She shrugged. Dr. Ignacio took care of the technical details. I just facilitated things. Daniel never knew what really hit him. It was quick, relatively painless, more mercy than you ever showed him in his life. I had the confession, I had it all recorded, but I needed to keep her talking a little longer. And the insurance? Was it all for $600,000? Fatima smiled. And for freedom, and for love, things you'd never understand. She stood up and walked to the window. Now that you know everything, what are you going to do, Armando? Call the police? Go ahead. It'll be your word against mine. A grieving wife versus a bitter, alcoholic husband seeking revenge. Who are they going to believe? I smiled for the first time in months. It's not my word against yours, Fatima. It's your own voice confessing to a murder. I touched the button on my shirt. This is all being recorded. Every word. Her face completely fell. No, you can't. She ran towards me, trying to rip my shirt, but I stepped back. It's too late. It's already done. Fatima fell to her knees, finally understanding she had lost. And I took out my phone to call the lawyer, Ivan. It was time for justice to finally come for my son. I called Ivan from the car. Fatima had stayed inside the house, paralyzed by shock. I have it all, I told him in a trembling voice. She confessed. She admitted to poisoning Daniel. She admitted to the fraud. It's all recorded. Ivan took a deep breath on the other end. Perfect. Don't go back to your apartment. Come straight to my office. I'm going to contact the DA's office right now. This moves fast from here on out. An hour later, I was in Ivan's office with Mario. The lawyer had called a trusted prosecutor, a woman in her 40s named Samantha. She had a reputation for being relentless in murder cases. She listened to the entire recording without interrupting. When it was over, she was silent for a few seconds. This is gold, she said finally. With this confession and the documentary evidence you have, I can get arrest warrants tonight. I need you to give me copies of everything. The flash drives, the bank documents, the emails, everything. Ivan already had everything prepared. We gave her copies of every piece of evidence. Samantha reviewed them quickly, taking notes. We're going to arrest 3 people. Fatima for first-degree murder, fraud, and forgery. Dr. Ignacio as an accomplice to murder, and Soraya as an accomplice to fraud and possibly conspiracy to commit murder. The judge will sign the warrants before midnight. The raids will be carried out simultaneously at dawn tomorrow, so none of them can alert the others. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in a cheap hotel, tossing and turning in bed, imagining what was to come. At 6 a.m. my phone rang. It was Samantha. They're all under arrest. Fatima tried to flee. She had 2 suitcases packed and plane tickets to Spain for her and Soraya leaving this afternoon. We caught her just in time. Dr. Ignacio broke down immediately and is cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. Soraya is denying everything, but with the evidence we have, it won't do her any good. The following weeks were a whirlwind. The media latched onto the story. Killer mother poisons son for insurance money, screamed the headlines. My picture was on every news channel. The people who had judged me at the funeral now offered me awkward apologies. Neighbors who'd stopped talking to me showed up at my door with food and words of support. I didn't want any of it. I just wanted justice for Daniel. The case moved surprisingly fast. With the recorded confession and Dr. Ignacio's cooperation, the prosecution had an airtight case. Ignacio testified that Fatima had blackmailed him using evidence of his past crimes. He confessed to providing digitoxin, a heart medication that in high doses simulates a heart attack. He explained how he gave Fatima instructions on how to administer it without raising suspicion and admitted to signing the death certificate without conducting a full autopsy, declaring natural causes when he knew it was murder. They ordered the exhumation of Daniel's body. It was the hardest day of my life. Seeing my son disinterred, his coffin opened for forensic analysis. The experts found exactly what Ignacio had said. Lethal levels of digitoxin in the preserved tissues. Cardiac damage consistent with poisoning, not natural causes. The autopsy confirmed that Daniel had been slowly murdered over several weeks. The trial began 4 months after the arrest. I was present every day, sitting in the front row, looking Fatima straight in the eye. She never looked back at me. She sat next to her defense attorney, an expensive man who tried to argue that the confession had been obtained under duress, that I had emotionally manipulated her. But the judge denied every motion. The evidence was too solid. The emails, the videos, the bank records, Ignacio's testimony, and above all, the recording where Fatima admitted in her own words to facilitating the murder of our son. Mario testified about his last conversations with Daniel, about the fear he had, about how he knew something was wrong. The private detective Daniel had hired testified about the photos of Fatima and Soraya, about their movements for months. The bank experts explained the elaborate fraud scheme. Handwriting experts showed the forged signatures. It was overwhelming, crushing, irrefutable. Soraya tried to save her own skin by blaming Fatima for everything. She testified that she knew nothing about the plan to murder Daniel, that she only knew about the stolen money, but the emails contradicted her. There was her question, and what about the boy? Are you sure he's not going to talk? She was involved, she knew, and she did nothing to stop it. That made her an accomplice. The most powerful moment of the trial was when they played the video of Daniel recorded 2 days before he died. The entire courtroom fell silent as my son, pale and sweating, looked at the camera and said, "Dad, I feel really bad. I think Mom managed to give me something. I'm going to die, Dad. I know it. I can feel it." There were people crying on the jury. Even the judge had to take a moment to compose herself. When they played the recording of my confrontation with Fatima, her voice filled the room. Daniel was going to ruin everything. I couldn't allow it. Dr. Ignacio took care of the technical details. I just facilitated things. I looked at Fatima at that moment. Her head was down, her shoulders slumped. She knew she was finished. The closing arguments were devastating. Samantha, the prosecutor, painted a complete picture of a cold, calculating woman who had spent years stealing from her husband, who had blackmailed a doctor, who had poisoned her own son for money. Daniel wasn't just a victim, Samantha said. Looking at the jury, he was an obstacle between Fatima and the lifestyle she wanted, and she eliminated him with the same coldness one eliminates a problem on a spreadsheet, without remorse, without humanity, without a shred of maternal love. The defense attorney tried to humanize Fatima. He spoke of years in an unhappy marriage, of feeling trapped, of looking for love elsewhere. But he couldn't explain the murder. He couldn't justify poisoning your own son. His defense crumbled under the weight of the evidence. The jury deliberated for only 6 hours. When they returned, the tension in the room was palpable. The judge asked, "Have you reached a verdict?" The jury foreman, a serious-looking older man, stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. In the case of the murder of Daniel Martinez, how do you find the defendant, Fatima Ramirez?" The foreman looked directly at Fatima, guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted. Fatima collapsed in her chair. I closed my eyes, feeling the tears run down my face. Justice. Finally, justice for my son. They continued with the other charges. Guilty of fraud, guilty of forgery, guilty of conspiracy. Every word was a vindication. Soraya was also found guilty of conspiracy and fraud. Dr. Ignacio, for his cooperation, received a reduced sentence, but still faced years in prison. The sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge looked at Fatima with absolute contempt. In my 30 years as a judge, I've rarely seen a case of such pure evil. You not only murdered your son, but you then manipulated the narrative to blame an innocent man. You tried to destroy your husband emotionally and financially after stealing from him for years. You showed not an iota of remorse. She paused. Fatima Ramirez, I sentence you to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole for first-degree murder, plus 10 consecutive years for fraud and other charges. Total, 35 years. Fatima was 63. She would die in prison. Soraya received 15 years. Ignacio, for his cooperation, received 20 years. All three would be transferred to maximum security prisons. That same night, as they were leading Fatima out of the courtroom in handcuffs, she finally looked at me. Our eyes met for the last time. I saw no remorse, only hatred. And that confirmed to me that I had done the right thing. This monster deserved no forgiveness. She deserved exactly what she was getting. After the trial, my life entered a strange calm. Justice had been served, but the void Daniel left was still there, huge and unfathomable. I returned to the house that had been mine. The court returned it to me along with everything Fatima had stolen. The $600,000 from the life insurance was also claimed and returned. The money Fatima had transferred to the joint account with Soraya was frozen and recovered. In total, I recovered almost $800,000 between the insurance, the stolen money, and what Daniel had hidden in the safe. I entered the house for the first time in months. It smelled stuffy, abandoned. I walked through the empty rooms, remembering, here Daniel took his first steps. Here he celebrated his 10th birthday. At that table, we ate thousands of silent dinners while I read work documents. Every corner held a memory, and every memory was a stab of regret. Not for what Fatima did, but for what I didn't do, for all the times I chose work over my son, for all the conversations we never had, for all the I love yous I never said. I sat on the floor of Daniel's room. He still had some of his furniture from when he was a teenager, old posters on the walls, science trophies on the shelf. I opened his closet and found clothes from when he was 16, a leather jacket I bought him for his birthday. I held it against my chest, and finally, completely alone, I allowed myself to collapse. I cried like I hadn't cried in my entire life. I cried for my son. I cried for the father I never was. I cried for all the lost opportunities one could never get back. Mario came to visit me the following week. He found me packing things, getting ready to move. "Are you going to sell the house, Mr. Armando?" I nodded. "I can't live here. There are too many ghosts, too many memories of what I lost." Mario sat on the stairs. "Daniel talked about you a lot in those last few months. I know you think you were a bad father, but Daniel never stopped loving you. He always said you were the hardest working man he knew, that you built things that lasted, that you were a man of your word." I wiped away my tears. "I built bridges and buildings, Mario, but I didn't build a relationship with my son. What good is everything else?" Mario took out his phone. "Daniel sent me this about a year ago. He told me he'd show it to me someday if something happened. I think that day is today." He passed me the phone. It was a voice message. I pressed play, and Daniel's voice filled the empty room. "Mario, bro, I'm recording this because I've been thinking a lot lately about my dad. I know people think I resent him for working so much, and yeah, I wish he'd been around more when I was a kid, but the truth is, I get it. My dad came from poverty. His family had nothing. He worked himself to death to give us everything he never had, and he succeeded. I never lacked for food, clothes, education. He was able to pay for my college without any debt. He taught me the value of hard work, even if it was by example rather than words. He's not perfect, but he's my dad, and I love him. If anything happens to me, tell him that. Tell him I love him and that I never blamed him for anything, that I'm proud to be his son." The message ended. I sat there with the phone in my hand, trembling. Daniel had forgiven me, even knowing he was going to die. Even in the midst of the horror of discovering his mother was killing him, he found time to leave me that message, to make sure I knew he loved me. "Thank you," I told Mario in a broken voice. "Thank you for keeping this." He nodded. Daniel was special, the best friend I ever had. I miss him every day. I sold the house 2 months later. I couldn't stay there. I bought a small apartment downtown, near where Daniel had lived. I wanted to be close to him in some way. I visited his grave for the first time since the burial. I brought fresh flowers. I knelt in front of the headstone. "Daniel Martinez, beloved son, 1993 to 2025. The words were insufficient to capture who he had been. "Hi, son," I began, feeling ridiculous talking to stone. "I know I'm late, as always, but I came to tell you I did it. I got justice for you. Your mother is in prison. She's going to die there. Soraya too. And the doctor who killed you is paying for what he did." I wiped away my tears. "I wish I could tell you that makes me feel better, that revenge brings peace, but it doesn't. It just reminds me that you're not here, that you'll never be here, and that I wasted 32 years I could have spent truly knowing you. I took the flash drive from my pocket, the one with Daniel's videos. I watched all your messages. I listened to everything you left me, and I understood that you knew me better than I knew you. You were more mature, wiser, braver than your old man. You forgave me when I didn't deserve forgiveness. You loved me when I didn't know how to love you back. I put my hand on the cold headstone. I promise you something, Daniel. I'm going to make your death mean something. I'm going to use the insurance money, the money I recovered, everything to help others so no other child dies in silence while being poisoned by someone who should protect them. And I kept that promise. With the help of Ivan and Mario, I established the Daniel Martinez Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping victims of domestic, psychological, and financial violence. We offered free legal advice, safe shelters, private investigators for suspicious cases, hotlines for people who felt something was wrong in their families but had no proof, education on manipulation, gaslighting, financial abuse. The response was overwhelming. In the first month, we received over 100 calls, people trapped in situations similar to Daniel's. Children being blackmailed by narcissistic parents, spouses being robbed by manipulative partners, people who knew something was wrong but had no resources to prove it or escape. We helped 17 people escape abusive situations in the first 6 months. We provided evidence that led to 5 arrests for domestic fraud. We saved 2 lives when people reported suspicions of poisoning, and we were able to intervene in time. Every person we helped was a way of honoring Daniel. Every life saved was a victory against the kind of evil that took him. I got personally involved in every case. I talked to the victims. I listened to them, told them my story, and promised them they weren't alone, that someone believed them, that there was hope. Mario joined the foundation as director of operations. He left his tech job to dedicate himself fully to this. Daniel saved me more times than I can count, he told me. He helped me when I was depressed in college. He lent me money when I needed it. He was always there. This is the least I can do for his memory. We worked together almost every day, building something Daniel would have loved, something that helped others like him. A year after the trial, the foundation had grown exponentially. We had offices in 3 cities, a team of 15 employees, hundreds of volunteers, partnerships with the police and prosecutors' offices in several states. We had helped over 300 people. And every time someone thanked us with tears in their eyes, every time we saved someone from a fate similar to Daniel's, I felt that my son was there with me, guiding me, giving me purpose. I had finally found a way to be the father Daniel deserved. Even though I was too late for him, I wasn't too late for others. And in that, I found something resembling peace. 2 years after Fatima's sentencing, I received an unexpected call. It was from the director of the prison where she was being held. Mr. Armando, your ex-wife has requested to see you. She says she has something important to tell you before she dies. My heart stopped. Dees, what's wrong with her? The director sighed. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors give her 3 months max. She insists she needs to talk to you. You're not obligated to go. Of course. I hung up the phone and stared at the wall of my office at the foundation. Go see Fatima, the woman who murdered my son. What could she possibly say that was worth hearing? Mario came in with papers and noticed my expression. What happened, Mr. Armando? I told him. He grew thoughtful. Maybe she needs to confess something else. Maybe there are things you still don't know, or maybe she's just trying to manipulate you one last time. But I think you should go for you, not for her, to close that chapter completely. 3 days later, I drove 2 hours to the state prison. The building was gray, menacing, surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers. They searched me, checked me, and led me through several cold hallways to the visiting room. There she was, Fatima, or what was left of her. She had lost at least 20 kilograms. Her hair, once always perfect, was gray and thin. Her skin had a yellowish hue. The handcuffs on her wrists seemed too big for her thin arms. When she saw me, something like relief crossed her face. You came, she said in a weak voice. I sat across from her, separated by a metal table. A guard stood nearby, watchful. The director said you wanted to see me. Here I am. What do you want? Fatima coughed, a dry, painful sound. I'm dying, Armando. The doctors give me weeks, maybe days. And before I go, I need to tell you something. I crossed my arms. I'm listening. She looked down at her handcuffed hands. I want you to know I don't regret Soraya. I don't regret falling in love. I don't regret wanting to be free. She looked up. But I regret Daniel. Every night in this cell, I see him. His face when he found me with Soraya. His fear in those last days, it haunts me, Armando. His ghost won't leave me in peace. I felt rage bubbling in my chest. Good, let haunt you. You deserve it. I know, she said quietly. I know, but I need you to know the whole truth, not just what you found on the flash drives. My attention sharpened. What truth? Fatima took a deep, painful breath. Daniel's life insurance, the $600,000. I convinced him to take it out. 3 years ago. I told him it was for protection, that everyone should have one. I helped him choose the plan and put myself as the sole beneficiary because I told him it would be more protected from tax issues. She paused. I started planning his death from that moment, Armando, 3 years. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't because he found me with Soraya. That just sped up the plan. I felt nauseous. Are you telling me you planned to kill your son for 3 years? She nodded weakly. I needed the money to leave with Soraya. And Daniel was the only child, young, healthy. His insurance was easy to get and would pay well. At first it was just an idea, a backup plan. But when he found me with Soraya, when he threatened to tell you everything, it became a necessity. She wiped away tears that ran down her sunken cheeks. I'm a monster, I know, and I'm going to pay for it in hell, if it exists. Why are you telling me this? I asked in a tense voice. Why did you bring me all the way here? Fatima looked me straight in the eye. Because there's more. Something you never found out. Something Daniel never knew. My blood ran cold. What is it? She hesitated, fighting with herself. Finally, she spoke. The money I stole, the $300,000 from your accounts, it wasn't just for me and Soraya. There was another person involved, someone who helped me forge the signatures, create the ghost accounts, move the money without a trace. Who? I demanded. Fatima closed her eyes. Your partner, Ignacio. I was confused. Dr. Ignacio is already in prison. He already confessed everything. She shook her head. No, not that Ignacio. Your business partner, Ignacio Valdez, the engineer you worked with for 20 years. The world stopped. Ignacio Valdez had been my right-hand man at the engineering firm. My friend, Daniel's godfather. No, that's impossible. Ignacio would never do something like that. Oh no? Fatima laughed bitterly. Ignacio helped me with everything. He had access to your business accounts. He knew your signature patterns. He taught me how to make the transfers without raising suspicion. And in exchange, he kept $100,000, a third of the total. I felt the floor open up beneath my feet. Why? Why would Ignacio do that? Fatima coughed again. Because his company was bankrupt, he had gambling debts. He desperately needed the money, and I offered it to him in exchange for his silence and his help. And Daniel knew? My voice was barely a whisper. Fatima shook her head. Daniel never found out about Ignacio. He only knew about me and the doctor. That's why Ignacio never appeared on the flash drives. He stayed in the shadows. And when you recovered the money and I was arrested, he played the surprised, loyal friend who couldn't believe what I'd done. But he's as guilty as I am. I stood up abruptly. The chair fell backwards. Why are you telling me this now? What do you gain from this? Fatima looked at me with empty eyes. Because I'm dying and I don't care about protecting anyone anymore. Because Ignacio got away with it while I rot here. And because you deserve to know the whole truth, even if it hurts. The guard escorted me out. Fatima yelled behind me. Armando, one more thing. Daniel loved you. He really loved you. That's the only pure thing that came out of our rotten marriage. Don't forget that. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I left that prison, staggering, processing what I just heard. Ignacio Valdez, my partner, my supposed friend, had betrayed my trust, had stolen my money, and had helped the woman who killed my son, and he was still free. I called Samantha, the prosecutor, from the parking lot. I told her everything. She listened in silence. I need evidence, Armando. A confession from Fatima from prison isn't enough without proof to back it up. She could be lying to you to cause more pain. It's what narcissists do. And if I get evidence, I asked, if I find records connecting Ignacio to the fraud, can you arrest him? Samantha thought for a moment. If you get solid proof, yes, we can reopen the investigation and add additional charges. Fraud doesn't have such a short statute of limitations, but I need documents, transfers, something tangible. I drove straight to Ivan's office. I told him everything. He immediately started making calls. We're going to hire forensic auditors. We're going to review every transaction Ignacio Valdez made in the last 5 years. If he was involved, we're going to find it. And we found it. It took 3 months, but we found it. The auditors discovered an offshore account in the name of a shell company Ignacio had created. That account received exactly $100,000 in 3 transfers during the period Fatima was stealing. The dates matched perfectly. We also found deleted emails that Ignacio thought he had permanently erased. Emails with Fatima discussing the transfers, the forged signatures, the risks. With that evidence, Samantha obtained an arrest warrant. Ignacio was arrested in his office in front of all his employees. He tried to deny everything, but the evidence was irrefutable. His trial was swift. With the precedents from Fatima and the clear evidence, he was sentenced to 15 years for fraud and conspiracy. His reputation was destroyed. His company closed. He lost everything. I was in the courtroom when they read the sentence. Ignacio looked at me with hatred. This is all your fault, Armando. If you had been a better husband, Fatima would have never needed my help. I stood up and looked at him directly. No, this is your fault. You chose to betray your friend. You chose to steal. You chose to be an accomplice. Now you're going to pay for those choices. As they let him out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he whispered, I hope it's worth it. I hope all this revenge makes you feel whole. I didn't answer because I knew he was right about one thing. Revenge didn't make me feel whole, but justice did. A month later, I got another call from the prison. Fatima had died. Cancer took her in the middle of the night. I didn't go to her funeral. There was nothing to say, nothing to cry about. That woman had died for me years ago when she poisoned our son. Her physical death was just a formality. It's been 5 years since Daniel's death. 5 years since I found that safe that changed everything. 5 years since I discovered that the marriage I believed in was a lie and the woman I loved was a monster. Today I turned 71 and I'm standing in front of my son's grave on a cold October morning. Hi, Daniel. I begin, as I do every week. I came to tell you the news. I kneel and clean the dry leaves that have gathered around the headstone. The foundation turned 5 last month. We've already helped over 2,000 people, 2,000 families that didn't have to go through what we went through. We've opened offices in 8 states. We have 50 full-time employees, and it's all thanks to you, son. Thanks to your bravery in documenting everything. Thanks to you not staying silent, even when you were afraid. I take a photo from my wallet. It's a family we rescued last month. A mother and her 2 children who escaped from a husband who was slowly poisoning them with carbon monoxide, making it look like an accident. We saved them in time. This family is alive because of you, Daniel, because you taught me to see the signs, because you showed me that evil exists even in the places closest to our hearts, and because you gave me the courage to face it. I sit on the cold grass next to his grave. Your mother died 4 years ago. Cancer. She suffered at the end. That's what they told me. Part of me wants to say she deserved it, but the truth is, I just feel empty when I think of her. There's no more anger, no more hatred. Just the sadness of knowing that the woman I once loved never really existed. It was a mask, and underneath there was something dark that I didn't want to see. I absent-mindedly pull at the grass. Soraya has served 3 years of her sentence. She still has 12 left. Dr. Ignacio committed suicide in prison 2 years ago. He couldn't handle the guilt, they said. And Ignacio Valdez, my ex-partner, is serving his sentence. I saw him last month at a parole hearing. He looked old, finished. His request was denied. He'll spend at least 5 more years locked up. The wind blows cold, and I pull up the collar of my coat. I sold the engineering company 3 years ago. I couldn't keep working on something that stole so much time from you. Now I dedicate every minute to the foundation. Mario is still the director of operations. He got married last year. A beautiful girl named Eloisa. At the wedding, he toasted to you. He said you introduced him to her indirectly because it was at one of the foundation's events where they met. Your legacy continues to touch lives, son. I take the original flash drive from my pocket. I carry it with me always. I still watch your videos from time to time, when I have hard days, when I feel like I can't go on. Your voice reminds me why I do this. Why every morning I get up and keep fighting. Tears run down my wrinkled face. I wish I could tell you this in person. I wish you could see me now, see who I've become. I'm not the same man I was. The man who failed you. The man who chose concrete bridges over building a relationship with his son. That man died the day I found you safe. I wipe my tears with the back of my hand. The man I am now knows you. He knows you through your words, your videos, your actions. I see your intelligence in how you methodically documented everything. I see your compassion in how you worried about protecting me, even when you were terrified. I see your bravery in how you confronted your own mother, knowing what she was capable of. You're my hero, Daniel. Not the other way around, you're mine. I place fresh flowers in the vase next to the headstone. Yellow roses, his favorite, according to Mario. Last week I gave a lecture at a university. I talked about psychological domestic violence, about how abuse doesn't always leave visible marks, about how manipulators are experts at appearing perfect while destroying others in private. There were 300 students. At the end, 20 of them came to talk to me. 20 young people who recognize patterns in their own families. We were able to help 5 of them that same week. 5 lives changed because you had the courage to expose the truth. The sun begins to rise from behind the clouds, illuminating the headstone. I spoke with a sculptor last month. We're going to create a monument in the Central Park. A statue of a son protecting his father with a plaque that will say your name and what you did. I want the whole city to know who you were. I want your story to inspire others to be brave, to not stay silent when they see evil, to document, to seek help, to trust that the truth always finds a way to come out. I stand up with difficulty. My knees aren't what they used to be. I have a meeting in 2 hours with a new family, a daughter who suspects her stepfather is drugging her mother to control the finances. Sounds familiar, right? I'm going to help them. I'm going to use everything I learned from you. And if we manage to save her, it'll be another victory in your name. I place my hand on the cold headstone. I love you, son. I wish I'd told you more when you were alive. I wish I'd been the father you deserved from the beginning. But even though I was late, I'm finally here. I finally see you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life honoring your memory, helping others. I kiss my fingers and press them against his name carved in the stone. Until next week, Daniel. Your old man who finally learned what really matters. As I walk back to my car, I feel something strange. It's not happiness exactly. I'll never be completely happy again without my son. But it's peace, it's purpose, it's the certainty that Daniel didn't die in vain, that his death, horrible as it was, saved hundreds of other people, that his bravery created a legacy that will live on long beyond my 71 years. Before starting the car, I check my phone. There's a message from Mario. Mr. Armando, we have an urgent case. A mother suspects her son is being poisoned by his own wife. We need to act fast. Can you come to the office? I smile sadly. Another case. Another chance to make a difference. I reply, I'm on my way. As I drive through the city streets, I pass the building where I used to work, where I spent 40 years designing concrete structures, structures that still stand, solid and unmovable. But now I build something different. I build hope, I build justice, I build a world where the Daniels of the future don't have to die alone and terrified. And this invisible but powerful structure is the most important one I'll ever build. The Daniel Martinez Foundation isn't just a building with offices and employees. It's a living monument to my son. It's my way of telling him every day, I see you, I hear you. Your life mattered. Your death will not be forgotten. And your love, that love you left me in videos and letters, that love transformed me from a man who built concrete bridges into a father who finally learned to build bridges to hearts. I park in front of the foundation's office. On the outer wall, there's a huge photo of Daniel smiling. Below it says, "In memory of Daniel Martinez, brave son, silent hero, savior of thousands." Every time I see it, I feel like he's watching me, approving of what I do, finally proud of his father. And as I go in to help another family in crisis, I whisper one last time, "This is for you, son. Everything I do is for you until we meet again." Because now I know something with absolute certainty. True love between a father and a son doesn't end with death. It transforms, it expands, it becomes something bigger than any building or bridge. It becomes a legacy. It becomes hope. It becomes the force that changes the world, one saved life at a time. And that's the final gift Daniel gave me, not just the truth about his death, but the purpose for my life. And for that, despite the pain, despite the tears, despite everything I lost, I can honestly say it was worth going on because every person we save is Daniel living again, and that makes it worth getting up every morning.